This is Christy Renee here from Rewire, and I just realized I left my garden hose on, so I'm coming down to shut it off. But I wanted to jump on here for a quick second because I have about 20 minutes before my next session, and talk for a second about fear, because I keep getting a lot of calls about people or from people who are just stuck in an amazing amount of fear. And for many different reasons, things that have happened in their life, things that are currently happening on the planet, and, in general, just the idea of how things could turn out possibly, or not. So fear is just a really strong emotion right now. But I want to give you a different way to understand it. I want to give you a different way to think about it. So if you're watching this and it helps you, please like this video, share this video if it behooves you, subscribe to my channel. I am trying to get up over 6,000 subscribers at this point, so I'd greatly appreciate that. And also, please leave a comment on whatever you hear that intrigues you, or if you have a question. I always try and do more videos on different things when people leave questions. So you have to excuse me. I am still having trouble breathing from the issue that I had back in December. But I am still working through it. My rib cage is still healing. So anyway, let's talk about fear for a minute. Fear as a word sets off definitions in your head. It will make you think about things when you hear the word fear that you're afraid of, right? You will start going backwards through time, thinking about all the stuff that has caused you fear. And then you'll start feeling those sensations. It's how it works. It's what we all do. I think it's how it works because that's how we were taught. If you begin to recognize that you live as an energy being, as a spirit being, in a physical body, and the physical body is matter, is what they tell us, but it's not. It's energy. It works on energy just the same way everything else works. If you go into a hospital and they do a heart test on you, a heart function test, what are they measuring? Energy. If they hook your brain up, what are they looking for? Energy. Start to think about this a little bit, right? Come on now. And when you start to understand that, you start to recognize that everything that we are made up of physically, but also emotionally, right? The chemicals and hormones, at the end of the day, it's all energy. So when people say to me that they are in fear, I try to get them to look at it just as though it's a frequency. In a scope of a bunch of frequencies that you are made of, it is just one. And it has gotten highlighted in your system. If you want to conquer, and we're just going to use fear as the example tonight, if you want to conquer fear, there's many ways to do it. There's all kinds of protocols you can buy into. There's all kinds of different techniques you can use, including hypnosis, Psych-K, now I'm trying to think of an emotion code, all kinds of wonderful ways that you can do that may help. I do know people who have tried all kinds of stuff and it hasn't helped, right? They're still stuck and searching. But if you recognize it as if it's a frequency, fear is just a frequency. Any emotion is just a frequency in a huge scope of all the frequencies that you're made of. It's just a frequency. You have focused on it for far too long if it's causing a disruption in your system. Yeah? If you continue to focus on it, you will continue to have issues. It's just the way it works. Hey, whoever has jumped on here, I appreciate you. Once you understand it as a frequency, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with it. The laws of the universe, right? Laws of quantum physics will actually give you this kind of information that whatever you focus on grows, right? Whatever you put your awareness to, whatever you put your attention to, you will see more of. That's the law, I think, a law of attraction, right? The whole system works that way. And if you start to understand the teachings from like the Kybalion, there is actually a law of the universe about polarity with opposites, right? So the polarity of thing, the positive and the negative is what we would call it. But we were taught positive and negative as good and bad. This is where the problem comes in. Is fear really a bad thing if it's just a frequency and a whole series of frequencies that you're made out of? Instead of focusing on the fear or whatever it is you think you're scared of, or whatever is causing the disruption in your system, according to the law of polarity in the Kybalion, you can focus on totally the opposite and start to create a charge inside your electric system that will send off the magnetic part of you to grab this new feeling and draw it in towards you, right? So if I'm in fear, what's the opposite of fear? Courageousness? That'd be a good one. So let's use courageousness for a second. So I find something that makes me feel courageous. And if you have never been courageous in your life, this could be a little bit of a stretch, but that's how we grow, is by stretching. So you're going to stretch and find something that gives you that feeling of courageousness. And if you use that frequency to bust through the thing that you think you're afraid of, right? You work at it from a state of courageousness instead of a state of fear, you're going to conquer it way faster. You just are. It will help if you do something like getting your brain in a state of wholeness, right? Using a cross crawl pattern of some sort, or the crossing of the arms and legs, right? A whole brain state idea. I teach that. You can find it free on my channel here. There's a whole class on it that you can watch for free. And if you just sit and do that, right? The simple act by itself of breathing will start to calm your system down. Big inhales, nice long deep exhales. Inhale from your diaphragm, not from your nose. So your stomach's coming out, your stomach's going back in, and you're pulling oxygen into your lower lobes of your lungs before the upper lobes, right? When we breathe up here, the air is up here. When you breathe lower, the air comes in lower. It'll calm your system down by itself. In that calm state, cross your arms and legs. People are always trying to figure out, what's the best pattern? How do I do this? There is a direct way you can associate it to the exact fear that you're working on. If there's a issue, or even if it's just a feeling, by crossing your feet, cross your ankles first, and feeling, you have to feel energy. And if you don't know what that means or don't know how to do it, I can do a video on that next. Drop a comment down below and we'll work on feeling energy. I'll have to do that from my computer instead of here because I'll need my hands free. But I can give you energy. I can show you how to feel it. I can pass it to you through the screen. It's pretty easy, right? It's interesting. We're all that connected. And once you understand what it feels like, you feel your ankles crossed and then cross the other direction and feel again. You're looking for the strongest pull. It'll feel like the energy is pulling you, right? One side will feel heavier than the other. Does that make sense? Go with the side that feels the heaviest, then do the same thing with your wrist and sit there just noticing the fear. Keep feeling it until it shifts, and it will shift, but you have to sit there long enough to get the interaction done. If you get to that place where it shifts and you feel, that could be the feeling of courageousness. Label it whatever you want. Try and sit with it, make it bigger and bigger. The more often you do this to the given subject of fear, in this case, the quicker it's going to change. People ask me all the time, and I've had this conversation recently through a series of emails with somebody in India, actually. How do you know? Like, will it change instantly? Does it only take 1 minute? I don't know who's saying it only takes 1 minute, but most people it takes longer than a minute. But you'll feel a shift. Will it come back? How many layers do you have? How many times, let's say, okay, I think I'm 58 is what we decided the other day. I just had a birthday on June 16th. So in my 58 years of life, how long did I spend participating in my fear before I decided to change it? How long have you participated in your fear? How much neuroplastic have you built up to it in your head and on your heart, because at this point we know that we have neurites on our heart and they build neural connections just like our brain does. How long have you sat with it? Have you ever tried to break the pattern by becoming so aware of it, you see it come up? You know the second it comes up. And the second it comes up, you go, aha, that's that fear happening again. And instead of going into fear, you go into something else. Come at it from a different state than your fear, because as humans, we have the ability, this uncanny ability, to change the way we feel in an instant. You have that ability. I feel like crap, and then I'll start breathing and thinking about lovely things like a sunset or the beach, or right, anything besides the thing that's making me feel like crap. This was me last night. I'm not lying. It was bad. Last night was rough. I had actually slipped something in my back and some of my ribs popped out again. And the pain, while excruciating, the emotional weirdness that happened with it was even more excruciating. So I think with that out, it slipped me back into the state I was in right after I'd come out of the hospital. But I recognize it. I become aware of it. Become aware of it. I put my finger on it and I go, okay, that's what that feels like. That's not the feeling I want. So in my imagination, in my mind, I went straight to the beach. I could feel the warm sand. I could hear the water rolling in. I could smell the salt. And I stayed there and allowed everything to start to alleviate. Does that make sense? The more you do it, the more you do it, the more you do it, the better you get at it, the less it will occur. And the more the other feeling will happen instead. Every time something happens, you will probably have to self-correct. This is a correction to the system. Does it make sense? This is an energetic system, and if you keep putting information into it, in this case fear, then you're going to keep having problems rolling forward. It'll keep showing back up in other places. And we make all kinds of stories to it. This is the other thing I would tell you, is quit telling yourself the story. What is the story about your issue that's bringing it back and back and back? The story with the pain in my back is my death scenario that happened on December 2nd, and not even what happened December 2nd. It's what happened in the weeks that followed. When I got home and the pain, not knowing that my ribs were out until a chiropractor finally touched me and was like, holy cow, and put my ribs back in, right? The story that I keep telling myself is, oh no, if I do something, that's going to slip out again. Last night I was like, no, and I went to a beach instead, and then I ended up going to bed, but that was the thought in my head, was I'm walking on a beach, right? You have to do something to break the cycle, break the pattern. Things like a whole brain state can definitely help. If you sit, all by itself, just sitting and breathing, arms and legs crossed, and keep switching the pattern around to the feeling that you're having at that point, will start to alter the feeling. If you want to get super specific, go watch my videos on a whole brain state, and it shows you how to get super specific. This isn't hard. None of this is hard. You have been lied to. We have all been lied to about so many things. And I think our ability to change our emotions and to come into control of our emotional state is one of them. I do not think emotions are what we have been taught, right? We have been taught, think about this for a second. You've been taught about emotions, especially the disruptive ones: anger, jealousy, sadness, fear, right? It disrupts your life. You focus on it, it makes it worse, and then you focus on it more because that's your focus. And you keep doing that over and over and over. If you stopped doing that and you realize all of those emotions, those things that we titled and told stories to, are very simply just frequencies. They're part of the vibrational field that we live in. Without them, there would be something missing. And it sounds weird to say, but if you look at it across the spectrum, right? Label every emotion you can think of and put it in from low, what we call low, to high, which is another thing that throws you off because of the way you think of low and high. I got to raise my vibration because that feels better. You don't want to be in a low vibration. But I tell you, that high vibration without those lower frequencies isn't the same. because it is just a frequency, and it's what builds this whole scenario. It's what builds this whole place. We don't want to get rid of them. We just want them in check. I don't want the frequency that I call anger, I don't want it to be dominant. The frequency that I was told was fear, I don't want that to be dominant. I want love to be dominant. I want joy to be dominant. I want peace to be dominant. If those are dominant, those other frequencies are still in there somewhere, but they're not so predominant that they've taken over your life. If they've taken over your life, switch the way you think about it. Switch the way you talk about it. It's tough, right? And I know because I talk to so many people about this, and the first thing they do is start going into their story. And if I've worked with you for any period of time, you know me well enough that the second you do that, I'll be like, start again. Try it over. Tell me a different story. Tell me the same thing, but with a different story to it. You can't feel the same if you switch your story. Once you realize that's literally how all of this works, you won't want to do it the other way. You won't want to keep telling your old story. The sad part about a lot of this is it's what we're taught to do. And even in marketing and doing, where are the babies? Go get them. Go find them. Uh-oh. We got babies in trouble. I have baby chickens, and right now they're running amok and squeaking, which means my cat's down here, so my dog is rounding them up. It's okay. It's okay. Go find the other ones. Where's the other two? Yep, there's Miss Kitty. You know when the cat's around. Miss Kitty, be nice. What I was saying was what we have been taught to do. Oh, here they come. Can you see them? Those are my babies. Hi, babies. Hi, sweetheart. So funny. There's 5 of them running around somewhere. They got separated, so now they're looking for their friends. In marketing is a good example. Is tell your story. Here's the other 2. They want you to tell your story, but if you tell it in the emotion, and I think it was Renee Brown I listened to one day was saying this, tell it with the emotion that it originally occurred. If you do that, you are just rebuilding the neuroplastic to it. Don't do that to yourself. And I bless her. I love her work. She does amazing, great things with people. But if you continue to tell your story in the same emotion that it happened in, you will continue down the same path that you've always been on. That is not fun. I did it for years. If you figure out at some point that you don't want to do that anymore, pick a different emotion, right? Pick a different vibration. In picking that different vibration, you will literally be able to figure yourself out differently, start to tell a different story. I think he's a rooster. I think this little guy's a rooster. You will start to tell a different story. And then in the telling of that new story, see, they all just found each other. They're all like little buddies. You guys are so cute. I know, you're so cute. I think I have 2 roosters. Oh, well. Start to tell a different story, what I'm saying, and my phone's about to die, and you will find a different life. You will become a different person. And I don't know, it's also amazing at that point. So I encourage you, don't stay in fear. Use your breath. Breath alters everything. It just does. Inhale, exhale. Put yourself in a whole brain state by crossing your arms and your legs and sit there until you feel a shift in the pattern that you're in. Once you've done that, life just won't be the same because you'll notice a difference and then you'll do it more often. The more often you do it, the better you get, the better you get, the better you feel, the more often you'll want to do it and you will have recreated yourself. I need to run because my phone is literally about to die. I bless you. I love you. Thank you for being in here. Thank you for being in here in my garden, in my house. Thank you for being here, and I'll talk to you again soon.